Okay. It looks like we are live. How is everyone doing today? Thank you so much for joining me. Good morning, good afternoon, good evening, wherever you are in the world. My name is Jason Levine, Principal Worldwide Evangelist for Adobe. And today, actually this entire week, we're going to be doing a series of scheduled streams. That's right, scheduled. Every day at noon this week. And talking about features coming back from NAB. So, a couple of weeks ago we had a big release and showcased all of that at the NAB broadcast show in Vegas. And now, this week, we're going to sort of take a slightly deeper dive look at very specific features. And today is highlighting the new Freeform view in Premiere Pro. And because Freeform view is really a way for you to just better organize your story and your storytelling in a storyboard kind of way, before you even get to the timeline, I thought it was also appropriate to possibly talk about proxy creation then too, because all of this is an effort to really make you more efficient as you're not only going through your footage, reviewing, making selects, and then placing things in the timeline, but ultimately just making it a lot easier for you and just to navigate and kind of get through things quickly in the Premiere Pro interface. So as always, lots of people chiming in from all over. Oh wow, really lots of comments. David Presenter, how are you? Desiree, I saw that it looked like, let's see, Henrovine from New Zealand, nice to see you. Claudio, Trevor Hansen, Marek Dipanjan, Eden Lane, Avirup, very nice to see you. Jetlu, Eduardo, Michael Westcott, Keith Owen from Utah, Samson from Ghana, hello. Sahib Zaman, hello. Great to see you. Oh, Dipanjan, love my hairstyle. Thank you very much. It's, I don't know what's going on today. It's a little flat today. Sometimes it's big, sometimes it's flat. I don't know what to say. Andreas from Germany, Donna from Colorado. Very nice to see you all. All right, just let me go ahead and check over on the tubes. All right, nice to see you. Hey there, what's up, Becky? Hey there, Dan. Okay, so let's go ahead. Let's cut right into it. We're going to try and keep this one a bit short to really focus on this single feature today. So I'm going to switch over to my screen to Premiere Pro. Incidentally, you may have noticed that there was another little brief update to Premiere either yesterday or today. So if you haven't already done that and you're not mid-project, not a major one, just a couple of little additions and little fixes and things. That's what's so nice about having Creative Cloud to deploy these updates, is we can do them as they're needed. So one of the things you will find, and that's actually why I kept the media browser open, is that caching of frames is just one of these little things that we snuck in here. A lot faster in the media browser. So there used to be this kind of weird hierarchy. You had a ton of footage in a folder. Anyway, not going to get into that now, but that's just among some of the things that you'll find in this latest update. But for the big update that was released a couple of weeks ago, we're talking about Freeform. And the idea here is, again, another way for you to organize your footage and effectively storyboard it in a free-form kind of way. And I've been talking about this. It's effectively like having an artboard in Premiere. If you know artboards from Photoshop, if you know artboards from Illustrator, it's really the same thing, even in so much as that you can even save the layouts of the artboard of your freeform view and recall them later or even as you make changes. So it's a very powerful way to organize content. So what we're looking at here is some footage that I shot quite a few years ago in South Africa on a safari. And what I have, if you're taking a look at the media browser here, just tons and tons of footage from a couple of various days that we shot. You can kind of see it going through here. By the way, you'll see all those thumbnails coming in very, very quickly. Again, part of the new feature for the most recent update to Premiere. This is also flat, as you can see. So over here on the right, we have my graded version of this lion. And if you take a look, you can kind of really see, flat versus graded. I mean, it's so flat. Probably almost a little too flat. And part of that was because the time of year, it was winter, so everything was really dead. There wasn't a lot of green. And I can remember sitting with some of my colleagues and reviewing this stuff and thinking, oh God, I hope there's enough information to pull out some color. And amazingly, we were able to kind of restore it back to the way we saw it. So very nicely done. All right, so let's talk about Freeform. So here in the project panel, I have all of my content that I brought in from these various folders. And you can see dozens and dozens of clips that I've placed in two separate bins. One test grades, another Safari Animals. So I'm going to double click on the Safari Animals bin here. And I'm going to leave this as a floating panel. I'm not going to dock this. Let's go ahead and expand this out pretty much to the whole screen here so you can see it. And what view I'm using is this one down here at the bottom. I'm going to zoom in for you. And this is the icon for Freeform view. Now, if I just scroll over a little bit, again, you've got your traditional icon view, list view, and then Freeform. So this is the one that we're in here, all right? Now, you may notice that when I opened this, it's like, oh, well, that kind of looks like the icon view. Well, that's because we haven't done anything to it yet. So, of course, we can use the zoom. And as I zoom, you'll see that now you have this kind of infinite free space. Because one of the cool things about Freeform is that you can move things around, you can move things off screen, just like with using an artboard. So one of the first tasks that I might want to do is just to kind of separate and organize by animal, okay? In terms of how I'm going to organize and tell the story. This may, of course, change. I never know exactly what I'm going to do. It's kind of very organic as I go along, but you can see here, all right, so we've got some buffalo. Actually, that's solo buffalo there. Let's take some of these warthogs, bring them over here, and I'm working from the bottom up. All of these look like giraffes, so maybe we'll take these first 6 or 7. These kind of look like giraffe walking away from us. Keep that here. And maybe we'll take the rest of these. I'm just going to select all of them. Whoops, not like that. All right, like this. Maybe drag these down here, grab those. All right, and just start to organize things visually on screen. Okay, here's some rhinos. Kind of move those out over here. These are some obscured rhino video. I've got more video where you can see the rhino very nicely. Okay, all right, and we're just starting to move things around. Now, as I move things around, one of the cool things is that you have options for how you do that. So, for instance, I've got all of these lion in the bush clips here. So if I select all of them, first of all, if I right-click on them, one of the things I can do is I can clip resize. Right now they're at medium, so I can make them all larger if I want to. We can make them even larger than that. Let's go to extra large, all right, something like this. This, of course, will change as you adjust your global zoom percentage here of the interface, all right? And you'll notice that, of course, when you're in Freeform here, as I hover over these, you still have complete hover scrub capability. So as I'm kind of reviewing them here, you know, these are all handheld, so with a 400mm lens, I might add. So these are kind of shaky, but I like this little turn. Don't know if we're going to use that. So I can set my in and out points right here. And I'm just tapping I and O, and you can see that my little in-out region appears right here inside the clip, right? Hover to the next one, same thing, right? Nothing's really happening there. That one's pretty shaky. So maybe I'll actually take this clip out and put it over here. And maybe I'll keep some other space in my Freeform view for unused clips, all right? Let's keep on moving here. This one actually looks pretty cool, although it's obscured slightly by something on the Jeep. So again, do a little eye blink, and we can JKL through this. All right. Fantastic head turn right there. Okay, set my out point, and you get the idea. We just start kind of reviewing through, going through all of these things. I can grab the playhead inside of the clip, as you can see, or I can JKL, however you feel most comfortable. Now, one of the other things I can do is I don't like everything looking quite so linear, so I can kind of start stacking these things however I like, on top of one another, in this kind of, you know, little custom way that I'm doing it. Doesn't really matter. You've got complete flexibility here. Now, this particular clip, nothing really going on, so maybe we'll put this along with the others down here. Maybe I'll take these two, and let's do a little group resize on these as well. All right, kind of shrink those up. All right, so we're going to move things around and really begin to kind of organize how we want to tell this story. So again, as I'm reviewing some of these, here's some buffalo clips. Let's just resize this one here so I can see what's going on. Again, I can resize the whole thing. All right, it looks like we've got this. Now this bird, I can't remember the name of it, but these birds, you know, they feed on these sort of wounded animals. They clean, they clean the wounds. So let's go ahead and set an in point here. JKL through this. Takes a little bite right there. Out point. All right. You can see that we've got that set up there. And we've got a bunch of these other clips. I took a couple other shots. Again, some of these are duplicates, so I don't need all of them. So I can zoom back out again. Move these over here. Yeah, it's all kind of the same thing. Lots of shots of the same thing. Maybe there's a better one here. Maybe we'll move those over. Notice that I can also have multiple sizes cascading just like this. All right, super amount of flexibility here. Now for these unused ones, maybe we want to pull those off screen. So this is where, again, talking about artboards, I can keep moving these things just to get them out of the way. Now I'm on a single monitor here. I'm a single monitor setup, and let's size all of these. Let's just do a medium. So I use this zoom a lot just so I can bring everything into view. Of course, if you're on multiple monitors, you can imagine how much real estate you can occupy just kind of putting things together. So these will be the unused. And maybe for the unused clips, I want these to be kind of linear stacked. Well, if you're like me and kind of OCD and you like things sort of snapped neatly together, if you hold down the Option key and drag your clips, you'll see they will actually magnetize together, all right? So I can take those, snap this here to the edge, snap these two here like that, okay? And this is sort of the unused stuff, all right? Now, as you're inside the gray space, all right, so we have all this other space in here. Wow, I have a lot of clips of this stuff. So many are very, very similar. There's a nice one of the warthogs walking away. All right, I like this. Here's solo warthog down here. Stack these like that. Another solo. All right, maybe we'll move this one over here. And it's a little two-shot with the one warthog kind of falling asleep. All right, resize these. Clip size, let's make them large. Oh, that was just the one clip. Sorry, let's do all of them. All right. Large. Tell them large Marge sent you. All right. If I right-click in the gray space here, this is where you'll find some of the options for the freeform view. So one of them is you have an option to align to grid. Now, we don't want to do that right now because as it is, I'm sort of customizing how this is all laid out. Obviously, I've got a lot of work to do. There's a ton of clips in here. You can also reset the grid based on a specific metadata parameter. So if we were using the list view and you had customized the viewable metadata, everything from duration, camera roll, descriptions, log notes, name, proxy, etc. All of these various attributes can be used to align your content in a linear way in this view as well, just to kind of get everything back into a squared, kind of tiled view. Not that you'd necessarily want to do that here, but sometimes I will actually lay everything out by name, mostly for order, just so I can see like how things were shot. Maybe I remember that the good takes of the lion came later in the day. So I'll know if I do by name that the earlier ones are not the ones that I want. Something like that. You get the idea. So you have grid options here, but you also have this, and this is the coolest thing about this. Save as new layout. Now, I haven't created any before. That's why you don't see any existing ones. So just as it is right now, I kind of like this. This is kind of my first pass. So I'm going to click on Save as New Layout, and I'll type Safari First Pass. Okay? So now this layout, as we see it, is the first pass. No matter what I do, I can mix this around. I can start changing things around. So let's just align it to the grid. Okay, now you can see it's kind of taken all the stacked media and just placed everything kind of back in a grid-like fashion. It didn't change the sizes. It just kind of performed an OCD pass to kind of make everything a bit more square and snap together with evenly spaced content. You get the idea. That's kind of not so bad, right? And then as I mentioned before, if we wanted to like, oh, maybe we want to view these real quickly by name, come up by name. Now this shows me, again, the order in which all of this content was shot. And as I was saying, I may recall like, oh, I didn't want, not these shots of the buffalo. None of these were good. I did a lot of close-ups, as you can see up here, but it was these close-ups down here that I wanted. So this is a good example of where I might momentarily go back to a metadata field just because I tend to remember, I don't always take the best notes while on set, but I did remember that the latter half of the shoot with the buffalo, those are the really good clips. There's some really cool ones in here. Did some kind of cool things with his horns right there, you can see. Again, just, like beauty shots, whatever. All right, something like that. So you can realign to the grid, okay? But now I want to get back to where I was. I want to keep organizing the way I had it. So I can come back down here. Let's zoom this in so you can see it all. All right. Oh, why is my screen not? There we go. And I can go to Restore Layout, Safari, First Pass. And now everything is back to the way I had it before. This is what makes this so cool. Because again, you might be retooling your story in a number of different ways. So in the case of that, you have the ability to save and manage multiple layouts. Now it's very important to note, these layouts are on a per bin basis. Okay, so the layouts can't be accessed in other bins, right? So if I go to this test grades bin over here, let's go ahead and double click on this one, go into Freeform, I don't have any, there's no layouts in here, all right? Because I haven't created any for this bin. So they're saved on a per bin basis, all right? But this is still extremely powerful because as I'm laying out the story, trying to build up my timeline here, it just gives me an enormous amount of flexibility and plenty of real estate to freely, you know, iterate on how I want this story to go. All right. By the way, this just kind of shows you here, these are the graded versions, some test grades that I had done a while back, and, you know, so much more vibrant, in particular, like these, the lions and stuff, you know, you just saw moments ago how flat they were. Some really nice looks, lots of stuff shot at night here. Really cool things. All right. One of my colleagues there. There's the back of, you guys know my colleague, Paul Tranny. That's the back of Paul's head right there. Looking good, PT. All right. So really cool. All right. Let's go back to that original bin. And again, maybe we'll just start restacking things. Maybe once I stack these things, I'm thinking, okay, you know, I'm about ready to put these into a timeline. All right. But maybe first I'm just going to keep organizing. So I'm going to do some more organization here. All right. Kind of keep these together and maybe pick one good one of this giraffe. Lots of the same scene of this giraffe kind of eating from the tree there. I'll snap these with the Option key like that. All right, take these out. Take this one here, snap it with the Option key. All right, let's move all these other ones. I'm going to take all of these and let's move those over. All right, you can see as I hover over that side, it allows me to just continually drag. All right, and this is the unused stuff. Remember up here, so maybe I'm going to place all of these giraffe clips in order like this. All right, and I can decide how I want to do that. Get OCD, I can Option snap them together. It's pretty fast to do this organization, so, you know, it just feels good. It'll snap vertically and horizontally. So you can snap here. All right, nice. And let's go back down here. All right, that's like a pretty good timeline. Let's resize these. Since I've been using this, since we introduced this feature, if they're large, that means that they're sort of ready to be put into a timeline. That's my own little thing, right? So you can kind of figure out your own ways that you want to kind of organize and, you know, visually tell yourself that this is kind of ready. Let's zoom in here and let's go ahead and play this clip back. JKL through this. Oh, that's a real short one. All right. Nice little zoom right there. Set an endpoint. Cut off his ear, so maybe we'll do an out right there. And this one is already walking. All right. I don't necessarily know that this is the order they're going to be put in, but again, we can always modify that after the fact. All right, so here's another one. I kind of just like the motion of the neck, and then there's a nice little kind of pull and push on these clips. All right. So these are kind of stacked in a way that I might want to place them into a timeline. I mean, we haven't even gotten to the other clips yet. Again, at this point, I can say, you know what? I don't want to mess anything up. Let's go ahead and save a new layout. Now, you also have the ability to overwrite your existing one. So I can overwrite the one that's currently open or create a new one. So let's create a new one, and we'll call this Safari Pass 2. I don't remember what I named the first one. Doesn't matter. So again, now we've got this organization. If we go back to Restore Layout, I can go to Safari First Pass. Notice the things in front that we just changed. Change. Again, Restore Layout, Pass 2. Boom. Done. All right? So easy. So cool. Love this. Absolutely love this view. So, you know, at this point, we might want to start actually telling our story, right? Placing things into a timeline. So to do that, I'm simply going to select my clips here, right-click, and create new sequence from clip. And when I do that, if I just pull this out of the way here, now you will see that this has placed those clips into the timeline in the order that we selected them. All right. And at this point, again, I have the option here. I'll just mute this. I have the option here to begin to refine the edits, right? And just work as we normally would. All right. Super easy. I love this too because, again, like if you've got multiple monitors, I know a lot of people keep the media browser open, they keep the project panel open. I generally didn't really keep bin folders in their own windows because it just took up too much space. But I could see if I had a second or third monitor, yeah, I'm going to have bins of Freeform all over the place, right? It's just so easy. And if you work up a system that you like, where you know you have sort of your organized content, maybe it's stacked diagonally, you know, you can choose how you want to do it. It's just going to make telling that story that much easier and kind of getting that process started. So that's Freeform. Really simple to use. Really easy. Again, if we wanted to modify some of those layouts or maybe delete some ones that we don't need. Here, maybe I'll just do one more just so I have something else. I'll create a third just so I can kind of show you. Here, I'll just stack all these together. I think some of these were sub clips, which is why I'm seeing multiple versions of them. All right, I like these. Like these are the head-on shots. Okay, kind of gives you an idea, right? How I'm organizing this stuff, what story I'm trying to tell. All right, something like that. Let's create another layout. Safari pass 3. Okay, come back over here. Let's manage. You can't see it. There it is. Manage saved layouts. And now I can say, okay, yeah, maybe we don't need the first one anymore. Or maybe we want to get rid of that third one that we just built. So I can check that, click OK, and it deletes it. All right. So easy to save, easy to manage, easy to modify. It's an artboard. It's a video artboard. That's really what it is. And it's great. Now keep in mind, of course, you can go back to icon view if you so desire. And you can, icon view allows you to do some basic storyboarding. You can see I'm picking up and grabbing my clips and I can move things around. And if I were to create a timeline, they'll now appear in this order that you see at the top there. But it's still very linear. There's no grouping. There's no sorting. It's okay, but it's just, and it's a global resize as well. When I go back to Freeform, though, regardless of what I did in icon view, Freeform stays in the last state that you left it in. So that's really cool, right? Because again, I just moved a bunch of things around in the icon view. It doesn't affect the Freeform view, which is also why it's cool that you have those stored, savable layouts, because regardless, I can always revisit a view that I created, okay? So cool. And of course, this can be docked, however you want. I just keep it undocked because there was so much content in here. And that, my friends, is Freeform view. Okay, so let's go ahead and close this bin for a moment. And we're about 20 minutes in. I want to talk to you briefly about proxy creation. Now, this kind of goes hand in hand if you're going to be working with lots of footage, particularly if you're going to be working with content in various raster sizes, particularly above 4K. Hold on, Aunt Pruitt is saying, it's always fascinating seeing how different everyone sets up their panels and views in Premiere Pro. So true. And, we did that stream a couple weeks ago about do your workspaces bring you joy? It's funny, I tend to kind of go fairly traditional in the layouts. I don't get too fancy with them. I dig our kind of classic workspaces. I change a couple things, height, width, or whatever. But I love seeing other people's workspaces. And if you look at some, particularly people who do craft editing and stuff, really inventive. It's also, as I mentioned in that stream, it's a great way to be able to minimize stuff that you don't want to see. Right? People often forget that while we have all these workspaces, all of these panels, any and all of these could be taken away. So if I don't want this open, if I don't want Lumetri color in here, I can just close it, take it out. If I don't want all of these other things living up here, I can just close them and save them as new layouts. I can just have a huge program monitor here and a huge timeline and a project bin on the left-hand side, and that's all I see. And that can be a saved workspace. So yeah, it's super fascinating. And again, when you're doing stuff like assembly, if you're in the assembly view and you're in Freeform, it just gives you so much more screen to work with, right? Okay, but in terms of working with lots of footage and sort of complex edits, one of the things that's very useful is the ability to work with proxies. Now, for those of you unfamiliar, proxies are basically smaller, lightweight versions of your native footage. And I mean smaller in actual size sometimes, not necessarily always in terms of file size. But by default, by definition, smaller in frame size. So if you're shooting 4K or 8K, you probably want to make proxies that are, say, 720p or 1080p. And the reason for that is that this is going to give you a really easy way to just navigate and move through your timelines quickly, right? I mean, I'm on a 2018 iMac 5K here. It's great. It's performant. I love it. But yeah, I mean, as I start doing proper edits with more than, a single video track, adding effects and things, stuff can start to slow down if I'm in full quality. So one of the ways to combat that is to leverage proxies. And this is a super cool workflow, and it's easy. That's kind of the key. It's just unbelievably easy to work with this. So here's what I'm going to do. You can do it in a number of ways. Now, from the media browser, you'll see that we have this ingest box here. So this effectively enables the option for proxy creation. Let's kind of go back. I'm going to close this. Let's start with a fresh one, just so I can show you. It's the same dialogue, and here, I'll even save this. I technically could have just created a new one. That's okay. And we're just going to build a new one from here. I'll call it Sabi Proxy. All right. You're going to notice inside the new project dialog that we have ingest settings. Okay. So here is where you can set up the proxy workflow. Do it at the beginning of the project. You really don't ever have to revisit this again. Even if you bring in footage that maybe you've already created proxies for, you have an option to relink to other proxies. If you don't use this, you can still relink footage after the fact. There's lots of relinking capabilities. If you set it up from the beginning, though, this is basically a set and forget. It's going to do all the work for you. And the cool thing about it is it does it in the background. So unbeknownst to you, you're building these proxies, working with smaller, lighter weight footage, but Premiere's handling it all. So your process never stops. That's kind of the key. All right. Now, you have 4 options. You have copy, which is just that. It copies the media to a specific location. In my case, it's already on the drive I want it to be on. I'm not going to do that. You have transcode. Transcode, yes, you could use that to make proxies, but that's like I'm working in red. I'm going to transcode to an intermediate codec, maybe something like ProRes, maybe something like GoPro Cineform or DNxHR. That's transcode. Then you have create proxies, which is the small lightweight versions, and then you have copy and create proxies. So each of these can be used for a different purpose. Typically, if you're taking stuff off of media cards, this is probably the one you're going to use, copy and create proxies. You'll copy the native media to some other place, and then in the process, build those lightweight versions. I've already got the media where I want it to be, so I'm just going to create proxies. Now, I'm not going to go over the whole creating ingest presets today. I have another video here on the Premiere Pro Facebook page. If you go to the video tab, you can find it, how to create custom ingest and export proxy presets. We can do that. Maybe I'll even revisit that on Friday. It's kind of long, slightly tricky process. We give you a bunch of presets, by the way. You're seeing some of them here. You're also seeing some of my custom ones. In this case, because I'm using standard 1080p footage, you're going to find that there are already proxies built around the same fractional frame size that I could use. So for speed, performance, and again, keeping the files a bit smaller than they, in terms of a manageable file size, I'm going to go with Apple ProRes 422 proxy. Okay. Now, it's also worth pointing out for those of you who don't remember or didn't know, we also now support ProRes import and export. It's in the Windows versions of Premiere Pro as well. So you have access to ProRes for proxies. You have access to ProRes for exporting content, which you didn't have prior to 6 months ago or whenever we added that. So I tend to use the ProRes ones. Now, the GoPro Cineform ones, as good, as legit. The files are a little bigger. They're a little heavier. That's kind of all I can really say about it. They're a little bigger and they're a little heavier. For a proxy, who cares? I just want to be able to kind of zip through it. Again, we've got some DNX flavors as well. There's some H.264. You can build a proxy using any codec that's in Premiere Pro. So if you have third-party codecs installed, you could build a proxy from those custom if you so desire. I'm going to use the standard here, 1280 720 ProRes 422. Now, primary destination is going to place it the same as the project. That's a default setting here. And then proxy destination, where would you like it to go? Now I'm going to place it in the same as project. You can use a preset destination, you can place it in Creative Cloud, or you can place it exactly where, a specific location altogether. I like to keep things simple and organized, close together. I usually use same as project. Here, though, is where you can determine where you want them to be. All right, so if you're like on a shared LAN or something like that, maybe that's where all of your raw footage and proxy media goes. That's where you could choose that. I would, however, say that for archival purposes, it's probably easier and a little more leaner to place them together, but that isn't necessarily always the case, but you know that you can change it. So I'm going to click OK, and that's it. So it's enabled, ingest, enabled, same as project, 422, OK. All right. Now I'm back in a new project here. So let's go, where's my project panel? It's over here, DocVet over here, media browser. OK. So here's how this works. All right. Let's go ahead and just select a couple of clips. All right. Again, I could set in and out points here. I'm not so concerned about that. I'm just going to set a couple, just kind of a variety of different clips. I've often talked about this. If you've ever filmed or shot anything on Safari, you know that most of what you're doing is waiting for something to happen. There's a lot of waiting and sitting around. So that's why so many of these clips are similar, because I was just waiting for the animals to do something. It's like, even a head turn. If you get a head turn, it's like winning. Okay, so I've got 7 or 8 clips selected here. Here, maybe we'll just choose a couple more at the bottom, some random ones. All right, and drag these in to my project panel. Okay, and they come into the project panel. Let's go into our list view. So here's all the media that I just grabbed. Okay. Now, if I go to the flyout menu here, whoops, Media Encoder. Why is Media Encoder launching? Yes, because Media Encoder is now going to start building those proxies in the background. Now, hopefully I can talk about this before it finishes. From the flyout menu of the project panel, I'm going to go into metadata display. This is where you can, again, showcase what metadata you want to see in the project panel. And you will see that we actually have a specific checkbox, which I'm trying to find here. There it is. For proxies. This was added a couple of versions ago. All right, now I happen to have a customized layout of metadata that I want to see, so I'm going to choose that and click OK. Let's just go full screen on this for a second. So the reason for this is that when your proxies are attached, it will show you that they're actually attached. In the meantime, however, I can start building timelines with this footage as it is in its native form. So let me go ahead and I'll just select a couple of these clips and create a new sequence from clip, okay? So it's already built a sequence. Now, am I working with proxies or am I working with native footage? Well, at present, I'm working with native footage because the proxies are being built, and they're being built in the background. So if I go over here to the Media Encoder, all right, hopefully what we're going to see, why isn't Media Encoder launching? Why isn't Media Encoder launching? It's not responding, of course. Why would it respond? Let's go ahead and close that. Yeah, Frank. Oh my God. Good one. Let's do it again. Launch Media Encoder. Sure, access the microphone. Okay. Realizing I haven't launched this since I did the updates, so something to note there. Okay. Now, hopefully when I launch this, all that content is in there. If not, I'm going to chalk that up to user error, my fault, and I'll just drag it back in. But give me a second. So it's loading here. So let me just narrate again what will be happening. You drag content in however you want to bring it in. You can do file import. You can do media browser from the desktop, whatever works for you. Drag it into your project panel, assuming you've enabled ingest. When you do that, it fires up Media Encoder and begins building the proxies in the background. As I mentioned, if you have the proxy metadata field listed in your metadata, what happens is it's now going to let you see as those proxies become attached to the content. Now, ultimately, you don't really care until you start scrubbing stuff and it's not moving quickly enough, then you can switch over to the proxies. All right, this is taking a second to read all of the plugins and minutia going on here. Good grief. So we're going to wait for that. Here we go. Okay. Bzz, 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 bzz. Good. Oh, look at that. Yes, redeemed. Puh! You didn't believe it. All right. Thankfully, it remembered what was happening And now it's building those proxies. So I didn't have to drag anything back in. Score, okay? And what you can see down below is it's doing that. It's building all the proxy files. So if we click back to Premiere, what you're seeing now is that it's showing you what's offline, and it will show attached as they become finished. Okay, so there's one that's completed already, attached. Oh, you just saw another pop in, attached, okay? So all of this stuff is now happening in the background. So again, I like to stay in full or half res as I'm editing. But, you know, again, depending upon what I'm working in, that doesn't always happen, you know. This is some really shaky handheld stuff right here. Very cool shot, though, of that buffalo chewing, all right? So here's what you need to know about proxies. Here's the button. Oh, sorry, that's comparison view. Here's the button that you need to have enabled for proxy creation. It's called Toggle Proxies. You'll find it in the button editor by using this plus sign here at the bottom of the program monitor. I don't believe this is revealed by default. So if you're going to be working with proxies, you have to drag that in, all right? So let's drag that into our buttons and click OK. Now, when this is gray, that means that you're working with your native footage. You're viewing your native footage. You're working off of the native media, all right? Notice now, if we look back over to the project panel, everything says attached. So all the proxies are done. If we go to Media Encoder, we see a row of green arrows. All of our proxies have been created. So it's pretty quick. And of course, those were shorter clips anyway, but you get the idea, all right? How do I know if we're in proxies? Well, if I click on Toggle Proxy, this now turns blue, all right? And you may have seen it got slightly, maybe a little more pixelated looking because it's a smaller, lighter weight version. Even though we're only going from, 1080 to 720, you get the idea, all right? Now we are working with proxy media. So it just gives me the ability to scrub through a bit more elegantly here. I love some of these shots, I forgot. I got a couple shots of some other business going on with these buffalo, by the way. I'll not show you that one. We're working in proxy, so I can maintain full quality, all right, and play this all back in real time. All right, notice I'm not dropping any frames here in proxies. How do I go back to the native media? What do I have to do? Do I have to relink? Is there any kind of anything? There's nothing. All I do is click Toggle Proxies, and when it's gray, now I'm working off of native media, and that's it. Now, one of the things that you can do if you build a custom proxy, which again I will revisit later this week, and you can find the video here on Facebook as well as on YouTube, is I can add a watermark so that I know I'm looking at proxies. The thing is, if you build proxies with really high-res footage, not that it matters, but sometimes you just can't, you don't remember what you're using because there's so much detail anyway, it still looks good. So when it's blue, you're in proxy. When it's gray, you're not. You can add watermarks, you can add time code, you can add anything to that proxy so that you're just aware that you're working with proxy media. If you have to send off dailies or anything to your client and you want them, stamped as, not finished or whatever, that's a great thing to leverage proxies for. You can also just build presets for export that contain that as well. The proxy overlays and things are really more for the editor if you're like sitting in the room with somebody. But that's the point, is there's no manual relinking. It's blue or gray. Blue working with proxy, gray working off of native media. That's it. Really easy. Now, as I mentioned, what if you have a project where someone has already made proxy files for you, or you just already transcoded things into very small media, and you want to manually connect stuff? Well, you can do that too. Assuming I didn't have these proxies already attached, let me just select my footage here. If I right-click and I go to Proxy, you'll see that you have the ability from this menu to create or attach or reconnect media if, again, you were coming from an older project or maybe from an XML or an EDL or something like that. This allows you that relocate path to do that from external media, from externally created proxy media. So you have the manual thing always available to you, but if you do it natively from within Premiere, you don't have to do that. The hard part of it is already done. And again, as I continue to bring in footage, so let's grab maybe one of those renders. Here, ProRes renders. So I'll grab one of these shots here. All right. That's a cool one. Okay. Just click away. Let's grab this, drag it in. Okay, it imports sunrise day 2. Again, it shows offline. Oh, and it's already attached. I don't know if you saw that quickly. It's a short clip. It's only 8 seconds, but that's how quickly it just created that proxy, right? And it's in the background. So I'm not bothered by it at all. I don't have to do anything. Here, let's take this one. This is a bit longer. This is 2.5 minutes or so. So again, currently shows offline, all right? I can place this in the timeline. I can review what this was. Okay, so this was a very, I think this is a time remapped, yeah, it's a time remapped sunrise. That is the actual South African, oh, it was so amazing seeing that. And that's already been graded, but just beautiful. Just really one of those breathtaking kind of shots. Again, this was shot with the D800 with the 200 to 400 f4 with an extender. Come back over here, you can see the progress, all right? It's doing its thing, all right? Building the proxy, you can see the progress meter. Let's go back over to Premiere, wait for it, and any second now you will see, there we go, attached, all right? And for something like this, where again, I might start, doing something else in this timeline, maybe I can't watch it at full all the time, turn on the proxy, now I'm working with the proxy footage, all right? And I'm seeing it on my screen. I don't know if it's coming over the stream, but I'm definitely seeing more banding in the proxy version here. Yeah, because it's smaller, it's a lower bit rate, and yeah, obviously, that's the point. I don't care about quality-wise here. I just want to be able to cut and tell my story. So, again, that's it. Proxies. Easy, all right? I love this feature, and if you're going to be doing stuff like I do most of the time when I'm on the road with a laptop, it's essential because I just can't edit 8K native content on my laptop, but I can with proxies. And this workflow being so easy allows me to do it in the background. Freeform allows me to organize everything very easily and build those timelines and start creating those sequences as I think of them as I'm going, right? Super cool. Okay, so let's bounce over to the chat, see if we have any questions. Okay, Ant is asking, okay, I missed your ingest settings. Were you working via GPU or strictly the software? So on ingest, for the ingest options, and by the way, you can always reaccess those before I switch my screen by going into project settings, ingest. This isn't, so we're not doing any, there's no GPU leveraged here in the sense that, well, I guess theoretically for render, it technically is, and that of course is determined your setting in Media Encoder. I'm sorry, I was thinking in terms of effects. So yeah, so if we bounce over to Media Encoder, I think I have metal engaged. Yeah, so I typically leave the renderer here. I'm on Mac, so I leave it to leverage metal. It's going to speed up the render of those proxies. I also have OpenCL. I can also do software only. This will naturally be probably the slowest of the three because that's all CPU. So you're going to be fighting whatever CPU things are happening outside of Premiere, plus in Premiere, plus with the render here. So typically for a proxy, I'd never leave it on that. Usually Metal or OpenCL. If you've got an NVIDIA card and your machine leverages CUDA, you can determine that there. But yeah, this is determined in Media Encoder. And if you set this in advance of the proxy creation, it'll remember the last state that you left it in. Thumbs up. Oh, rock on, dude. So yeah, and again, you can always change the presets here. I was trying to see if I had one. This won't match the footage. I don't think I can use this particular one here. I was going to see that one of these had a... Let me see if this will work. I think it's going to be a mismatch, but I just wanted to see if I bring this in. See if it'll build the proxy. If I get an error. Did it already do it? That was really fast. It did. New sequence. Oh, there you go. Bzz. What? So freaking fast. All right, so that was 9 seconds. I mean, it built that proxy in like a second. That's crazy. Actually, I didn't even expect that. You've seen it on stream before, like when I get shocked, like holy cow. All right, and you can see that now I know I'm working in a proxy because I have the name of the clip, time code on the clip, and my logo. If I click this button to go gray, now it's native media. Proxy media, native media. All right, and these are some of those custom things that you can build on your own. This is a beautiful shot right here, inside of Media Encoder. All right, so let's bounce over for a couple more questions. See if we've got any. Lots of comments in here. Let's start from the bottom up. Okay, is there a group for Adobe Audition you can recommend for me? I would love to learn how to loudness normalize audio. Alejandro, I don't know about a group, but certainly you can find, you know, I just did a stream on loudness normalization for dialogue. If you go to my YouTube channel, youtube.com/Jason Levine video, or here on Premiere Pro Facebook, you'll see I've done a bunch of tutorials on loudness and loudness equalizing. All right, loudness and normalization are kind of two different things. But I talk about that a lot. And if that is something you want to see specifically, hit me up on Twitter and I can restream it again. I love talking about that stuff. All right. Okay, Gil, how did you program that all the clips have proxies and not doing it manually? So Gil, again, once you enable the ingest option, either at the beginning of the project or even after the fact, once you're in the project, and you can go to ingest settings and turn it on, either from the Media Encoder panel or from within project settings, then it's on. So anything that you drag into the project, it will automatically build proxies in the background. Set it one time and that's it. Belinda, you are very kind. Thank you so much. All right. Chad Riley, let's see. Can Premiere drop markers in video clips to change camera every 10, 12, 15 seconds? You know, instead of place markers manually, where can you tell it every 15 seconds place markers? That can be clicked and dragged. Chad, if you're asking if there's a way to automate placing multiple markers, there is not. Now, if you place markers manually, you can, of course, automate to sequence, but you're talking about camera change. Yeah, so there's no, unfortunately, we don't have any kind of script that'll automatically just drop markers in every 10 or 15 seconds. There may be a third-party plugin that does that. Austin, so how would audio files work if you have externally recorded dialogue? Seems like it might get messy. How would you deal with that? Austin Lawrence. In terms of proxy creation, yeah, so, you know, again, it depends. So it doesn't get messy, actually, in terms of if you're just building the proxies for the original video, and then you're synchronizing your secondary audio after the fact. I assume that's what you mean. So it doesn't affect it at all. In other words, if you're making proxies from your video content, which has your reference audio, and then after the fact, you're synchronizing the secondary audio, toggling between, this is only, again, changing your video stream there. So it won't affect it. Now, if you're getting into multicam, working with proxies, that can get a little convoluted. Additionally, if you're working with multi-channel audio masters, and this is something which you'll want to watch, that custom proxy generation video that I did here on Facebook and YouTube. So if you're working with content, let's say MXF files that are 8-channel, you have to have proxy files that are also 8-channel. That doesn't matter if your secondary audio is 8-channel or not, but in terms of just building the proxy, I was anticipating this might have happened here. I may have gotten an error, but I didn't. They have to be matched. And that's the current implementation. That may change in the future. But I can see your question, and maybe you give me a different example, but on the surface, there's no issue if you're using proxies and then attaching secondary audio after the fact. It won't affect anything. Okay. Hans, I cannot get, I'm assuming, footage in the sequence sorted as in the Freeform view. They sort different. Are you sure that you're in the Freeform view, right? So, and you have to be in the latest update, which came, well, there have been like 3 little mini updates since, but the April 7th update of Premiere. So if you're still in Premiere 13.0. whatever, you're not in the right version. What you want to be in is 13.1, and you can see that by here. I'll just switch the screen over for a second. If you go to the About Premiere screen, so again, there have been like 3 little updates since we released. So you want to be in, well, this is today, 13.1.2. But if you're in 13.1, you will have the Freeform view. If you don't have Freeform, if you're not seeing that Freeform button, it's probably that you're not in the right version. All right. Per bin layout equals cool. Eden Lane, nice. Paulina Duran, what's up? Alexandra, how are you? Keith, this is similar to what I'm picturing in my head when I'm shooting. Absolutely, right? Super cool. Okay, I'm trying to find some other questions. All right. Looks like a lot of people are answering everybody's questions. Thank you for doing that. All right. All right, looks like that's it on that side. Okay, let's see on Facebook. I mean, what? YouTube, so many platforms. Okay, Alejandro Reyes. Hey, thank you very much. Voice of Dissent. Proxies are nice, but I would upgrade my computer if I was having problems and was editing video for a living. I mean, here's the thing, Voice of Dissent. That's true, but again, I'm just going to speak to 8K. Frankly, there are very few systems that can work successfully with 8K native content, and it's just massive. I mean, and it's not even the size of the footage, but it's the throughput of the footage on the drive that you're accessing it from. I mean, it can be done. There's no app that's going to play those full res, full screen today. Maybe there's some configuration. I haven't seen any. All right. Not to say that I've seen everything. There very well could be. I'm sure there are some, probably inaccessible to most people. But the idea is that if you enable the proxy creation, it doesn't change. You could still do what you're doing, right? So I could still drag things in and start assembling and scrubbing and doing whatever in 8K. I don't feel like that I'm having to do any work to make those proxies. So I get what you're saying. I totally hear you. But believe me, 4K is the standard now, right? I mean, most deliverables are still 1080, but most people, if they're shooting new stuff, shooting 4K. If you're on a laptop, if you're on I do a lot of mobile editing, so there's no other option for me, right? I mean, even the latest Alienware, 4K is fine, 6K is all right. You start working with 8K or 6K, and now you've got dynamic links, and you've got, multiple layers of lumetri that's 32-bit color, and you've got, say, 4 or 8 streams. I mean, laptop, it's not going to do it. So proxy is really the only way to go. All right. All right. Okay. No vlog today. I'm going to need a much bigger screen. I'd like to see this on a second screen ideally. Yeah, absolutely. As I said, and if I had to, I mean, I could see that whole screen being, like I said, it's an artboard. It's awesome. It's so good. And it's actually changed the way that I'm thinking about editing stuff now, because I can just lay it out as I'm seeing it really nicely. All right. Soluciones Digitales Bolivia. Very nice to see you. Okay. Faux My Life. Thank you very much. All right. 8K is for video savages. I mean, it's a reality. Even a year and a half ago, it was sort of like, who's going to use that? We just had a couple of customers at NAB who were talking about their 8K workflows. And of course, one of our, I was going to say premier users, one of our most celebrated premier users, and one of the greatest teachers and directors and editors and just genuinely decent humans I know, Vashi Nedemansky. He's done talks for us talking about a completely native 6K workflow for that film 6 Below. So he's done it. I mean, it can be done, but depending upon where you're working, what you're working on, it's not always possible. But footage isn't getting smaller. So, this is just one easier way to make your life a little bit better. I'm a criminal for pushing this 8K nonsense. Hey, I didn't invent it, It's just trying to show a better way to do it. All right. Okay, Alejandro, you're currently doing location sound. What is the current up-to-date version of Audition? It's the actual version number. I don't know. Here, I can launch it real quickly for you. Yeah, now Voice of Dissent, that's another thing, by the way. Most people aren't shooting 8K so that they can deliver 8K. It's more about, recomposing and reframing in most cases, right? That's not to say that there aren't some that are delivering 8K, I'm sure, but it's more about that. Same way that that's kind of how 4K started before anybody was delivering 4K. It was like, oh, well, now we can reframe things and we just have that much more stuff, pixels to play with. Adobe Audition. So it's version 12.1.0.182, because there's been a couple little updates in there too, but 12.1 is the current version of Audition. All right. All right, everybody. Well, that looks like all the time we have. So thank you so much for watching on YouTube, on Facebook. All right. Wow, there's been so many more comments since I played these back. Stan Arthur, will P-Pro be supporting Blackmagic Raw anytime soon? So we talked about this at NAB. I believe there's been a blog post too. Natively, I don't have an answer for you. There is on the Windows side a third-party plugin. This is very high on the investigation research list. We hear you for Blackmagic Raw, similarly for ProRes Raw. So I don't have any ETA, but we know this is something that people are asking for. And as I mentioned, currently, if you're on Windows, there is I think it's a $30 codec solution. Not what you want, but it's a solution to get in the short term. All right. No, that answered Ferry too. All right. All right. Just looking here. Lassie, all right. Thank you very much. Hans, thank you. Peter Whiter. All right. Kahara, will I stream a subtitles how-to? Oh, that's an interesting one. I haven't done that in a long time. Okay. Yeah. Now, it won't be this week because they're already scheduled, but I could probably revisit that sometime next week. All right. Coming back here. Austin. Oh, you were talking about Freeform workflow. Oh, interesting. Yeah, I mean, I guess that's a great question. I'm not really sure. I'll tell you what. I haven't played a lot around with synced content in Freeform, and that's usually because my workflow is I work off of the native crummy sound media, and then usually sync it after I have something in a timeline. But let me play around with it. I haven't tried it myself, to be honest. So, but that's a really great question. So let me revisit that, and if you come back tomorrow on the stream, I can talk about that. All right. Alejandro, yep, I even have videos on how to fix distorted audio. So in fact, if you go to my YouTube channel, there's a whole series called How to Make Great Videos with Audio. And I think it's episode 2 or 3 deals with common audio problems. And there's another one, How to Make Great Videos. I think it's episode 3 or 4, How to Fix Common Audio Problems. One of them is distorted audio, and I tell you how to fix that. There's a native capability in Audition. All right. Kahara. Okay, sweet. Chad Raleigh, thank you. All right. All right. Cool. Okay, I think I got everybody now. I apologize if I missed any questions. Okay, time for me to wrap it up. It's been an hour. I said it was only going to go 30 minutes. That's how I do, though. Have a great rest of your morning, afternoon, evening, wherever you are in the world. Tuning in on Facebook, tuning in on YouTube, tuning in on Twitter Periscope. We will see you again next time. Take care, everybody. Bye-bye.